Lepidium campestre. Nickname for this plant is beer bottle. This is part 1, and in part 2 I'll be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant for identifying purposes. Be sure to watch all of part 1 so that part 2 is understandable. This is a weedy plant. Grows up to 2 feet tall and occasionally grows in colonies. Each of the stems are topped with an inflorescence, which is a type of flower. Specifically, it is a raceme, which I will detail later in this presentation. The stems are somewhat erect. They are covered with leaves, which are arrow-shaped. The leaves do not have leaf stalks. They clasp the stem. This plant branches, or can be branching, toward the top and at the base. Notice at the base, the leaves here bear more of an oar shape, like a boat oar shape, while the stem leaves are, as I said before, arrow-shaped. This plant grows from out of a rosette of flowers, or a rosette of leaves, I should say. A round rosette, which is essentially circular, round. This is a picture of one of the inflorescence I was telling you about, and it bears a bottle brush shape, which helps us to identify it, as you will find out during part 2 in the mnemonic. Tiny white flowers bloom toward the top of each of these inflorescent flowers. This one, again, specifically referred to as a raceme. Notice the seed pods. They are small, approximately 0.2 inches wide. These inflorescence grow to a length of 6 inches. These are a variety of inflorescent flowers, and the one we are dealing with here with the beer bottle plant is the raceme. One way to remember this is to imagine this central stem is representing a racetrack. Now the cars will make their pit stops, and after they've finished filling up on fuel, changing out their tires, they race back out onto the racetrack in this angular fashion. Raceme. Race me. Each of the stalks which attach the seed pod to the stem is approximately 4 to 8 millimeters long. Again, notice the numerous tiny white flowers, arrow-shaped leaves covering the stem, and the branching near the top. The leaves point skyward. Again, stem leaves have no stalks. This is a picture of an entire plant. The portion here on the bottom will represent the raceme, which the stem grows from out of. Bottom leaves bear more of an oar shape, while again the stem leaves are arrow-shaped, and they are smaller as they ascend the stem. Notice the taproot. The beer bottle plant has a taproot. This picture gives us a good example of the pubescence on the stems. Pubescence means hairy. The stems and leaves are dense with hair. Each of the flowers have 4 petals, and the sepals here are green or greenish purple. This sepal gives us an example of the shape or outline, which is lance shaped or somewhat oblong. Seed pods that tip the end of these stalks here are oval in shape or have an ovalish shape. They are notched at the tip. The seed pods have 2 cells together, and each side bears 1 seed. So there would be 2 seeds side by side in this 1 seed pod here, each side bearing 1 seed. To reiterate, white flowers, they're tiny, approximately 2 millimeters long, 4 petals, taproot, rosette of leaves, which a stem grows from out of, stem covered with arrow-shaped leaves, topped with a raceme or bottle brush like growth. Dense hairs. Notice the clasping of the leaves here. We'll see a better picture of the dense leaves in a later slide. Blooms typically occur, again, toward the top portion of the raceme. Dense hairs on the leaves, and you could see the hairs on the stem as well. This leaf represents one of the lower leaves. The lower leaves do have stems that grow from or that form the rosette. Now the leaves can be toothed, as we see here. They can also be lobed or smooth. So there's really no sense in being too specific about the margin or edges of the leaves, because they could appear with any one of those three edges or margins. Dense hairs again, all over. Now this picture gives us a close-up of the seed pods. Each seed pod has 2 cells. These taste very peppery, has a peppery taste. Close-up of the seed pods again. This is the surrounding portion that is essentially winged. This is a winged structure that surrounds the seed pod. It's very flat. Approximately, on the average, 0.2 inches long, or 1/5 of an inch. Each of the seeds are reddish brown or reddish yellow. And the edible parts of this plant are the leaves, the seed pods, and the seeds. To learn how to prepare these parts, go to Survival Plants Memory Course, and from the Index of Plants list, click on the plant that is nicknamed beer bottle. And you will find a methods of preparation section on the fact sheet. This has been part 1. Be sure to watch or to listen to part 2, where I will be sharing a mnemonic or memory technique to help you commit to memory the most distinguishing characteristics of this plant for identifying purposes. Thanks again.